Thank you for the introduction. Hi, everyone. My name is Jiaying from Chalmers University and Ericsson Research. My topic is about deterministic generation of frequency-bin-encoded microwave photons. And this experiment is done in 22Q Lab in Sweden and under the supervision of Simone and Gasparetti. We work with superconducting qubits and we are hiring. So let's go into the topic. When we talk about the near-term quantum processors, we usually refer to the NISQ devices, which are small in scale and also prone to noise. In order to scale the system up, there is, of course, the one way to have more qubits on a single chip, and one can also go for a distributed quantum computing system to build a connection between smaller scale quantum processors. And in order to do that, we want to build this quantum channel between two remotely distributed quantum processors. And for superconducting qubits, this can be done by using traveling microwave photons. So the photon can be emitted from one side, traveling through the channel and being reabsorbed by the other side. By this way, we do quantum state transfer, and we can also implement remote entanglement between the qubits on each side. And if we couple more qubits onto both sides, we can use the system to run larger tasks. And previously, we have been working on a building block of such a system, focusing on the emission part. So we have this qubit-coupler-qubit structure, and we have been using a parametric drive on this coupler to encode the quantum state from this stationary qubit onto a traveling single microwave photon. However, this approach has a limitation that the photon can be easily get lost during the propagation within the channel. In order to solve the problem, people have been looking at dual photon emission, and they have been implemented with time-being encoding. So what they did is they have this qubit cavity structure and have this second order transition between the F0 and this G1 state. So they kind of take turns to bring the state of the qubit onto the second excited state and sequentially applied two second order transition to generate two photonic modes in time beings. With this method, they added 1 degree of freedom into the system, and we thus can use it for error detection of the photon loss. Frequency-bin encoding can also be another approach within this dual photon emission. And compared to time-being encoding, instead of encoding the information into two photon modes emitted sequentially, we can encode the modes we can encode it as two modes simultaneously emitted but in different frequencies. So with this approach, it's going to be faster than time-being encoding if under the same hardware condition. And also it can be used for error detection. And later I will introduce how we implement it based on both two transitions. So in order to implement such a frequency-bin encoding process, we want to have simultaneous photon modes generated in different frequencies. And this requires two prerequisites. We want two transition states and also two simultaneous transitions going into the state. So an intuitive structure for implement that came into our mind is to have a 4-qubit structure doubling the qubit-coupler-qubit structure that we previously have. With this 4-qubit structure, you can first prepare the entangled state on the data and the auxiliary qubit, and then transfer it to the emitter qubit that's coupled to the waveguide. And with this, we fulfill the two conditions and can generate the frequency-bin-encoded photons. However, this approach needs a lot of qubits, and we didn't go for it. What we do is to use the same qubit-coupler-qubit structure that we previously used. So it's a simple structure, and this is the symbolic plot of our sample. In order to fulfill the first condition, to have two emission states, what we do is we tune this coupler into resonance with the emitter qubit so that the two of them will form a hybridized emitter containing two states, the antisymmetric state and the symmetric state. And the discrepancy between these two states is around 100 megahertz, and we fulfill the first condition. And then we take into consideration the three lowest level of the data qubit, treating it as a qubit. So that we can apply the two transitions that I mentioned before simultaneously, and we also fulfill the second condition that we need. So the whole process would be, we first start by the state that we want to transfer, a superposition state between G and E, and then we bring it into the superposition state between first and second excited state of the qubit, and then we apply the two transitions simultaneously, the parametric and second order transition. And since the two modes, the hybridized modes, they both couple to the waveguide, it will decay and emit two photon modes into the waveguide. Up till now, I show only the idea, and here are some experimental results. We follow this pulse sequence to generate our emitted photon, and we first prepare the state and then apply the two transitions. This is the photon state that has a fast rise and exponentially decay shape that we generated. And by temporal matching these two time-dependent modes, we get the time-independent mode that we want for our frequency bins, and we can further calculate the moments of these two modes. Here, if we prepare as a function of the preparation pulse, if we prepare our state fully in the excited state, initially it means that we will emit a full photon into the antisymmetric frequency, and if we prepare that fully in F, we will emit a full photon in the symmetric frequency. And if we start from something in between, we will have the highest cross correlated moment due to we have this maximum entanglement. And from here we do state tomography and get our density matrix reconstructed. And from the density matrix we also have been doing process tomography and reach fidelity of 95%. As I previously mentioned, this approach can detect photon loss, and let's see why we can do that. So this is the emission process that we followed, and if we want to do the reabsorption, we just follow the reverse process and using the same device to do that. And if there is any photon loss, the state will end up in ground at this moment, and after the 2 pi pulses, it will bring the state into the second excited state of the qubit. And by doing quantum non-demolition measurement to distinguish this F state from the GE's information subspace, but not disturbing within the subspace, we can detect our photon loss, but not disturbing any successfully transferred photons. So as a summary, we have been building this frequency-bin-encoded photon emission system based on the hybridized mode and also the 2 transitions simultaneously, and this can be used for detecting error when photon loss happens. And this is the first implementation in the microwave region, and it's hardware efficient since we don't need to use extra qubits, and it is also easy that we can use the same hardware for both with and without this error detection protocol. With that, thank you, and I would like to take. Do I have any questions?
Yeah.
Yes.